If you want to set yourself apart from everyone else using AI these days, you need to learn how to talk to AI effectively. It's no longer enough to just know the tools, you need to learn how to prompt. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you what prompt engineering is, why it's crucial, and how I'm using it to build real solutions for businesses. And so by the end of this video, you'll have a framework that you can apply to your own personal life or business, and you'll have a real world example to make sure that this whole prompt engineering thing clicks. If you don't know who I am, my name is Enzo Bakioki, and I'm building an AI agency from scratch and sharing everything that I learned here. And so if you're interested in learning AI well, or you're building your own AI agency, or just curious how AI can help your business, this channel and this video is for you. So let's get into it. So let's dive into this idea of mastering prompt engineering. So the first thing is that it's no longer enough to just know the tools, you need to know how to speak to them. You need to know how to communicate with these LLMs, these large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, effectively to get the best response. You don't want to be that guy who's giving a super vague inputs and expecting really complex outputs. So that's what we're going to be covering in this video. So what is prompt engineering? So prompt engineering simply is just clear thinking. It's about structuring thoughts so AI gives better answers. So whenever you're thinking about what to write to an LLM, in fact, there's a right and a wrong way to communicate with it. And so unless you think carefully about what you're typing into it, chances are you're not going to get the best response you can. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to maximize that response. We're trying to get the best response we possibly can. And so that's where prompt engineering comes into play. It just allows for clear thinking and a structure. So I'm going to dive into what that structure is and the toolkit that you can use. So this is the toolkit. I don't know, this is the one everybody uses, but it's the one I use, especially when it comes to building solutions for businesses. I find this one to be the best formula, and it's the 6-part prompt formula. So this idea of a role. So there's a role, a task, specifics, context, examples, and notes. So I'll go over this and I'll show you what this looks like. So the role, so it's who should the AI act as? Who are you telling it to kind of be? The task is what do you want it to do? This is the part that most people do. Most people give it the task, they're like, I want you to write this paper for me, but they miss out on all these other ones, like specifics, context, examples, etc. And then there's specifics, so what format, tone, or style do you want the LLM to use when generating the response? The context, what's the goal, who's the audience? Examples, you would give them, the LLM, examples of what you are looking for in a response, and notes, so extra instructions or rules. So this is kind of the formula in action, what it would look like if someone's using it. So the role. So act as a senior marketing strategist with 10 years of experience in SaaS companies. So you're delegating a role to the LLM. So now when it reads your message, it's going to be reading it with that frame. So it's acting as a senior marketing strategist. Second, a task. So the task, that's the main juice. Like that's like what it's doing. So create a content calendar for our AI productivity app launch. So there you go. That's the part that most people would put into the LLM, but then they would miss out on these other elements and they would miss out on those added gains. So that's the task. The third is specifics. So in this situation, format as a table with dates, topics, platforms, and target metrics. Use a professional but approachable tone. So that's kind of, obviously you tailor that to what you're trying to do, but those are some specifics that you would give it to get the best response that you're looking for. The fourth is context. So here we go, our target audience is busy startup founders. So you're giving it the audience and kind of the goal behind why you're doing this. And one thing I haven't really included in here, but is really, really powerful, is adding emotional triggers. So if you're like, this means a lot to me, or if you're adding that emotional element to your prompt, it's going to be a lot more, it's going to give you a much better response. And there's actually been studies where they've tested that and they've seen like a 60% increase on the, don't quote me on that, but like it's a really high increase when they do use emotional triggers. So keep that in mind. And then examples, so here's like a good output. So week one LinkedIn post about AI misconceptions, notes, and these are kind of the things that you would add last that are like the things for it to keep in mind. So if it's messing up a certain part, you can add on the notes, hey, don't do this or do this. So when all 6 parts work together, you get a precise, actionable results instead of generic responses. So that's what we're going for. And so I want to kind of go into a real world example of how I'm using this for a specific business that I'm working with. And that is a vacation rental company. And I'm building them an autoresponder that responds to emails automatically. They have a help scout, which is where they get other emails. And what I'm doing is I'm using make.com to automate that process entirely. However, to get the most out of this system, I need to be able to put a perfect prompt in the LLM that's making the response, the email, and sending it. So we're not having issues with it saying crazy things or it giving wrong information. So I'm going to show you a real case study on how this works. So this is like a process really roughly. I'll show you more in depth, but you want to draft the process. So you can use Google Docs, write the initial prompt, kind of what you want it to do. And there's a tool called Relevance AI where I have a specific tool that I use to write the first edition of that prompt or to create it. And then also, it's not here, but I use this tool called Promptmetheus that allows you to test that prompt and then you deploy it in make.com. So I'm going to go into that now and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here in Google Docs, we have that first step, that draft. And I want to be clear, this process is mainly if you're building prompts for businesses. If you're just trying to create a prompt for something that you're doing in your personal life that doesn't require such specific requirements, you don't need to do these different steps. You can just follow that formula, like give it a role, task, all that stuff, and you'll be much better off than 90% of the people using these LLMs these days. So this is mainly if you're trying to do it for business, which is what I want to get into. So this is the prompt planning sheet. I didn't make this. This is actually a resource that is in this YouTuber called Liam Motley. He has a whole AI automation school community, and this is one of the resources is in it. So I personally use this when I'm drafting my prompts because it makes you kind of think through what you're doing. So here you have these different questions. So what are the inputs, if any? So it's obviously the customer email, the inbound email here. So this is like the sauce, so to speak. This is like what it's using to guide its response. So here I put all the info that I could get kind of from the business, any requirements they may have. Here's principles, technical implementation. So yeah, if there's like an urgency level, the system needs to determine if the email is too urgent or it's an issue that they couldn't solve. And so we need to be able to understand that and then give response saying, hey, we're going to hand this over to our team. Be patient or something like that if it's something that the AI can't handle. And then here, this is really important, the example. So you're giving it real examples from the business of emails and responses that have already been given. So the AI can look at that and be, okay, these are some things that have already been done. I'm just going to copy that. So this is another example of it completed. This is the one that I personally am using. And the next step is once we get this information, we're going to plug it into our Relevance AI tool. So let's go do that now. So this is the perfect prompt generator tool in Relevance AI. All this stuff I'm going to try to leave in a resource in the description. However, if I don't, tell me in the comments and I'll send it directly to you. But yeah, this is a perfect prompt generator tool that I personally use on Relevance AI. And it allows you, so you put in the use case information, so what's the prompt doing and why, and then you're giving it the input and output. So now we can head back to our Google Doc and grab that example information. So here, what you'd want to do is you'd want to copy all of the IP and the output. So you'd want to copy all of this here into like the use case, and then you want to get the input output examples. So we can head back here and we can get the examples, and then we can copy them and put them back here. So now this tool has the purpose, why we're doing this, what it's doing, any specifications, and it has the examples. And now it's going to take this, and if we click Run Tool, it's going to take a second, but it's going to draft this first iteration of the prompt that we can go in and perfect using this tool called Promptmetheus, which I'll show you in a second. Here we are, we have the completed prompt given to us by Relevance AI. You can see that exact framework. It's given it a role. It's given it the task, the specifics, the context, examples. And I want to see if they included any emotional triggers. So here you can see that they included this one. I'm counting on your expertise to create messages that will truly resonate with the target audience. That's an emotional trigger that will help and guide the LLM to get a better response. So there you go. That's the prompt. And now we're going to get that prompt and we're going to throw it into Promptmetheus. Actually, before we put it into Promptmetheus, it's important to actually use the raw format because this gives it these headers. So this hashtag right here, when the LLM reads the prompt, these hashtags act as headers. So if you have one hashtag that's like the header, two hashtags, subheader, and it reads that and it's able to analyze it better. I know it's all a bit much, but I'm just going to copy this and then we're going to head over into Promptmetheus and chuck it in. So we're going to paste that prompt in from Relevance AI. And now we have the entire prompt. Ideally, you would put it in blocks. So I'll show you what that looks like here on the one I'm doing. So here you would put it into these different blocks where you would name it, and then you would give it all this context and these examples here. This allows you to play around and actually turn some of these blocks on and off when testing. So once you get your prompt in there and it's all organized by different role, task, all this other stuff, I'll explain this part in a second. You want to go here to your data sets and you want to create a data set. You want to give it some examples, like some email examples, or depending on what you're doing. And you want to put it in here and basically act as responses that the LLM could receive and just see how it handles it. So here for my own one, this is the things that I put in. These like dummy data pretty much. And then I grabbed that data set and I put it in here in the prompt underneath the task. And I said, input data, classify and write appropriate response. This I inputted myself. That did not come with a prompt. So if you do this, remember to add this. And then you basically want to add the data set. And you can see here, you can kind of go through the different dummy data inputs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how this works. So let's say I choose this email that someone could send, hire booking tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. What I'll do is I'll click it. I would click generate. And now it has given me this response. That was kind of crazy. I don't know what that was. But it's giving me this response and I can see, okay, do I like this? So, hi Sarah, thank you for reaching out. You have access to, so it's like, okay, so far like the format's good. Hasn't said anything too crazy. Obviously, you'd want to check what actual requirements are there in your knowledge base because you don't want them to say something that's not true or if it's available 24/7 if they're not available 24/7, things like that. So you'd want to go in and check if they do. Then what you can always do is you can come down here to the notes and you can add like, hey, don't say this. Or here you can see it gave the subject. So what I'd want to say is don't give the subject when creating responses. So now that is a note that's added, and so when the LLM gets the prompt, it's basically going to read that. So now once we have this prompt perfected, the next thing would be to deploy it in an actual automation. So I'll show you what that looks like next. So I personally use make.com to create these automations. And so this is the automation I've already created for a business that I'm doing this automation for. And then if we come in here to the ChatGPT module, here you can choose the system. So once you choose the best system in Prometheus, you would put the same model here because it would give you the cheapest stuff. And since this was like the dummy prompt that I put in there first, but now what you'd want to do is you want to get that prompt, you'd want to copy it, and you'd want to put it into here. And what's going to happen is every time someone sends an email and it gets read, it's going to send them a response based on that entire prompt. And also has a knowledge base to go off of too. And then it would send the email. So that was a real world example that I wanted to show you of the way I'm using prompt engineering in my own AI agency to make these solutions for these businesses and some of the tools that I personally use that I find helpful when crafting these prompts. So that's it. But what I want to leave you with is that prompting is leverage, and a lot of people will use AI, but very few will really maximize and use AI well. And so if you want to be one of those people who are, set yourself apart from just everyone who uses AI, prompting is a really good skill to learn. And it just saves time, it scales impact, and it gives you a competitive edge. So yeah, don't underestimate prompting. And yeah, it's not hard, it just takes practice, and I'm sure you guys will do great. So yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. If this video helped you learn something new, make sure to comment and let me know. And also, if you want one of those resources, let me know in the comments. And if you're also building with AI, make sure to subscribe, the like button. That shows me that you guys like this type of content. I'm going to continue making it. I'll be trying to make a video a week around documenting my journey here on YouTube, and I also post on Instagram. So if you want to check me a follow there, that'll be greatly appreciated. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.